it was like a leak of a synopsis of the movie or something like that.
And
It's like
what's funny is I shared a similar thing like a month ago.
Max is probably stupid.
Right, like I didn't find that, so it's not real. Because like the
Yeah,
synopsis
right.
he has is a little bit tweaked to the one I shared. And then yeah, that's typical Max. Like, oh, if he didn't find it, it's clearly a hoax if Mark shared it.
Yeah.
He probably heard it on a podcast and found it there.
Hello and welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that's perfectly balanced as all things should be. My name is Isaac Edlin. I am your host tonight, and with me I have a very special friend and fellow Infinity Bro. It is the tinfoil hat distributor of the Infinity Bros universe, Mark Jones.
Welcome, Infinity Boys universe. Infinity Bros universe. It is I, Mark Jones. If you need a carrot, come talk to me. Go to the Patreon. Got into the weeds there. Oh wait, that might have been pre-Patreon that I got into the weeds.
That's true. It was pre-Patreon, but we still did talk about a few things on the Patreon, so
we did.
You should still check it out.
Yeah, glad to be here. Super glad the election that we'll have in the United States will be done in just 2 days or 3 days. So
yeah. And beyond that, Mark and I are going to be at Twin Cities Con on Saturday, the 9th of November. So that'll be really fun. If you guys are going to be at Twin Cities Con in Minnesota, we would love to see you there. And we might even have I might have some merch that I can bring with. So track me down and you could win some merch. Just what's a phrase? Give me a phrase, Mark, that they have to tell me in order to get free merch at Twin Cities Con.
I'm sorry. I went right to let me dig in the hole for the I probably a better one is can I have a carrot would be a
there you go. Can I have a carrot? Come up to me or Mark at Twin Cities Con in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Say, can I have a carrot? And you will get an article of free Infinity Bros merch.
And maybe you'll get a carrot.
And maybe Mark will just bring a backpack of carrots to hand out. Maybe. He is the guy that dives into the rabbit holes here on the Infinity Bros podcast. And it is a perfect episode to have him on, because we're going to be talking about Agatha All Along, last two episodes and the season, just kind of in general, doing a little recap of the season. But first, we're going to talk some nerd news, talk about the Marvel slate coming up, and then we might cap it off with a top 6 Marvel Disney Plus shows now that Agatha All Along has concluded. All right, Mark, you ready to dive into some nerd news?
I am absolutely ready for that. Bring it.
I was hoping for a really cool transition that would make me giggle, but I didn't get any.
I shot it too early. It was premature. The ask what's in the hole, because I was thinking of I'm the rabbit hole guy, carrots, and I went dirty right away. So I threw myself off. That's my fault, everybody.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, well, that's exactly what I was looking for. So now we can get into some nerd news.
Hey, Zane, I was looking into getting into this Gunpla thing. There's one called the Unicorn Banshee. What the heck is that all about? Actually, Jarrett, what you're thinking of is RX-0 Unicorn Gundam 2 Banshee, which is from the Mobile Suit Gundam. Actually, you know what? It's time for nerd news.
All right, Mark. So we got a trailer from Marvel over the past week that revealed their slate coming up in 2024 and 2025. Some shots that we hadn't seen before. There was a lot of cool things in this, and some revelations of some projects that were in production that we didn't know were coming out. So excited to dive into this, but what was your first reaction after seeing this, and which project has you the most excited?
Most excited, Marvel Zombies.
Ooh.
I'm big fan of that stuff. So I'm just interested if they're going to go more into the after the What If story, or they're doing their own, or are they going to follow what the comics had? So I'm all in for that, especially now that there's more players in the game for Marvel Zombies. It's like you could have Ryan Reynolds be a voice in that. But the two big ones for me for like, ooh, like, the kind of like surprised was the What If trailer had Storm in it. So very interested to see what happens there. And then very much how dark the Daredevil Born Again looks.
Yeah.
And honestly, probably out of all of them, the only one I'm like, I could care less what they do is Ironheart. And I feel like I shouldn't feel that way, but I do. Ironheart's my like least favorite on the whole list.
Interesting.
Everything else I'm kind of somewhat excited, which might be good for Ironheart. If I have zero expectations,
true,
then I won't be hurt. So
right. Well, does that feeling come from how you felt about Wakanda Forever?
What do you mean? Oh, like the movie? Oh,
like, yeah, with her being in Wakanda Forever, do you feel like that is why you're feeling that way about Ironheart?
No,
the series?
I thought Ironheart was, I had nothing wrong with Ironheart. Well, maybe I did when I talked about it. Like at this point, though, when I'm talking right now, I don't have any issues with Ironheart. I think it's just I don't know the lore of Ironheart as much, so I just have zero expectations of that. So it's like it's a show I'm gonna watch.
Right.
That's definitely I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, can't watch it because it's got too many of things that I disagree with. Definitely not my thing. Just this might be a show like Miss Marvel where it's like, oh, this show is just not meant for a 34-year-old white man.
It's possible. It might be.
Where like Daredevil Born Again probably definitely is. So
true. That's true. They did show a new like suit reveal of Ironheart because we got like her suit, and we talked about it. I'll even put a link in the show notes to our Wakanda Forever review. I think whoever was on that episode, I don't even remember if I was on it, honestly, but whoever was on that episode, I remember listening, and I think it was Robbie. He was talking about how her suit looks so polished for like her first suit,
right?
And I think that makes sense because, like, you look back to Tony Stark's Iron Man suits, and obviously his first one was made in a cave with a box of scraps, so that one doesn't look quite as nice. But even his first, his Mark 1 suit looks pretty bulky, like, it still looks cool, but like, it definitely didn't look as sleek as Ironheart's suit. And when we see her suit in this, it almost looks like it took a step back, like she's going back to the basics or something like that.
Well, and I think two things on that. Like when she built her first one, she's also using, now at this point, newer technology, and she's probably able to, and she probably took time with this suit, unlike Iron Man or what Tony did with the first few suits. And this might be a case where maybe she lost her lab in Ironheart, so like she's building a suit from scraps, and that's why it looks bulky.
Maybe that could be. So we'll see what's happening with that. But I'm gonna go through all of the things that we have on the slate for Marvel here, capping out 2024 and then going into 2025. So obviously we just finished up Agatha All Along, which we'll talk about in a bit. The last thing that we have for 2024 is What If Season 3, which is slated to release on December 22nd. So just barely making the cut for 2024.
It'll be their little Christmas present for us.
Exactly.
Like
and last year, you're right. Yeah, last year they released, I believe, one episode per day for like 8 or 9 days or something like that.
I'm sure it'll
really
do the exact same
weird
thing.
Release schedule, but like I'm not complaining about it. We get it all at the same time and get to watch it all basically together. So I'll take that. So that's happening at the end of the year. The next one is something that we hadn't seen before, and we got a pretty extensive look in this trailer, is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is releasing on Disney Plus January 29th. It's definitely a different style of animation, definitely a little bit like simpler, but I believe, if I remember correctly, Tom Holland is still voicing Peter Parker in this one.
It looks like he is not. It looks like the guy who voiced Spider-Man in What If is that Hudson Thames or Toms or whatever.
Well, there you go. All right. I was incorrect on that one. It doesn't say in this Variety article that I'm reading. So, but yeah, I mean, the first look at the animation looks good. It's a Spider-Man show. I'm going to watch it.
So is this supposed to be like in the MCU prior to him becoming Spider-Man? Or Is this like not in the same universe?
I'm fairly positive that this is a different like multiverse.
Okay, because just reading the characters, it's like, well, here we got some Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn, so I just can't imagine.
Yeah. And there's also, I don't even remember if they show them, but they're showing a bunch of different characters in the show, including Nico Minoru, like the witch character. I don't really know much about her other than what I know about her from playing the
Marvel
Midnight
Snap?
Suns.
Oh, I was gonna say Marvel Snap for me.
Marvel Snap too, but Midnight Suns video game, the Runaways like Marvel team, Amadeus Cho, who is like the new Hulk. So there's definitely some new characters that are showing up in this series that, you know, we haven't seen obviously in the MCU. So
as I read further, it does say Norman, obviously, is going to be his mentor, unlike Tony Stark in the Marvel Cinematic Universe Sacred Timeline. So yes, this is not a Sacred Timeline story.
But it does look like Charlie Cox is voicing the role of Daredevil, and
there it is.
Doctor Strange is appearing, and I guess they don't have it listed if Benedict Cumberbatch is playing him. So might see a couple voice actors crossover, but not Tom Holland, apparently. So there you go. But yeah, different animated show called Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man on January 29th. Next up is Captain America Brave New World. Talk about that a few times on the podcast. February 14th. And this is about, obviously, Sam Wilson kind of taking further the mantle of Captain America. Harrison Ford showing up as Thunderbolt Ross, turning into Red Hulk. We've talked about a lot of different potential conspiracies on previous episodes of the podcast, but it's looking pretty good. What did you think of the trailers of this movie before?
It just looks like it's going to be like another one of those thrillers, kind of like what the TV series was. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure we'll have some secret society, especially when the leader is going to be involved in Red Hulk. So,
right.
And I can only assume, which I don't want to, I should stop assuming, is I'm going to guess hopefully there's an end credit scene that slingshots us into Thunderbolts, but never know anymore.
Yeah, that would be nice, but can't bet on those anymore, unfortunately.
Start teasing the big story, so then stuff starts tying together, but that's not what Marvel wants to do anymore, so.
Apparently not. Next up is Daredevil Born Again, which we're both really excited for, on March 4th. That is dropping on Disney Plus. I believe there's supposed to be 18 episodes of that, which is
it says 9.
Double or triple.
What I'm looking at.
Oh, you know what? That might have been a recent development, because
when they first announced it, they were like, we're going to give you all the episodes.
18, right, exactly. And I wonder if they split up the initial plan, so they're going to do 9.
You know what they probably did, Isaac?
Like that.
They probably filmed all 18. They're like, oh, we're going to split this into 2 seasons.
They probably did.
We got these suckers conditioned to do 9 episodes a season.
They probably did, and it's going to drop on.
And then we'll drop it like a year later, so then everyone's like, oh wow, they filmed it so fast.
Yeah, right. And it's going to end, the 9th episode is going to end on the stupid cliffhanger that we're going to have to wait a whole year for. It's going to be dumb.
Oh my gosh. Was that Chris Evans, Captain America? Credits.
Credits. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be rough. John Bernthal is coming back to be Punisher in this series as well, though. So going to have a couple cool cameos. It's going to be fun. I'm very excited.
I just don't get why you don't bring all the Netflix heroes back.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they will. Like, who knows? They could still bring it back. I don't think there's any.
I mean, I can totally understand recasting the guy who played Iron Fist.
Yeah,
but like every other character.
I mean, you know what? Is if you give him a better script, then he probably would be fine. I think in the show Iron Fist, him saying "I am Iron Fist" like 77 times. It just got to be a little too much. But you give him a better script, maybe he'd be all right. But yeah, I think recasting him probably would be fine. But Mike Coulter as Luke Cage was great. Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones, I thought was great. I would like to see those guys back.
Like a hero like Mike Coulter played with Power Fist, it's like, bring him back. Like, that's a dude you want on your side.
Yeah, definitely would be fun to see him back. Daredevil Born Again, very much looking forward to that one. Next up on May 2nd is Thunderbolts. What is that little thing? Not apostrophe, asterisk. Thunderbolts asterisk. That's the official title as of right now. Do you think they're going to change that right before it drops, or like after it drops or something? Or if that's the actual title?
That's a great question. Because my other idea is like, or is it like the play on like what the asterisk is used for, where it's like, yeah, they're the Thunderbolts, but they really have no association with the with Thunderbolt Ross, because that's why they're called the Thunderbolts, is because Thunderbolt Ross's team.
Right.
So, in that one, Thunderbolts is going after Sentry, right? Like that's what we're told is the bad guy.
Yeah, he's definitely in the movie. He was on the poster that Marvel released as well. So like on the poster, it almost looks like he's a part of the team. So I don't know if he's supposed to be the antagonist or if I don't know, man. I don't know where they're going with this. And it's a odd combination because Sentry is like a Superman level, like power level character, and all these guys are like super soldiers at best, so like I don't understand how Sentry fits into this. Honestly, I don't get it, but I think it still could be good because I really like all the casting of this whole crew. So I don't know, it'll still be I think it'll be a funny, like fun, action Marvel film. Kevin Feige in CinemaCon in 2024 revealed that the title of the film includes an asterisk and then teased that Marvel won't talk more about that until after the movie comes out. So maybe they will reveal the title like right when, the movie releases or something.
Or they'll see if it is doing well. And if it's not, they can reveal it and be like, oh, what? I got to go see that.
Yeah, right. That's true. They could wait. Maybe they would wait a little bit to see, like, if people are gonna go, like, to see the initial reaction to the movie or something like that.
However, this is my other. Here's my let's take my hand, Isaac. Let's go into the weeds.
Here we go.
Why keep that secret? Because like to have that type of game plan, to me, it's either like a few things. It's got to be big name players or big characters that we've been waiting to see. Either it has something like, a Chris Evans coming back, definitely not going to be Iron Man, or like having Thor, like someone that we already know that would drag people back to the theaters to go watch it. Otherwise, it's going to be like, well, is it actually an X-Men that they're fighting? Is like Sentry like the big red herring? And it's like who they're actually fighting is Juggernaut or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's like, what could they entice us with?
Right. That poster definitely makes it seem like he's a part of the team. So
right. But then why would they need him to fight someone?
Right. That's the thing. They must be going against a really big bad if they need somebody of his power level to help them out. So I don't know. And honestly, if that were the case, it would make sense because it's not like they're just going to waltz up to, like one of the Avengers and be like, hey, can you guys help us out? Like this crew's not going to do that.
Or this is a thing where they're like, hey, it's actually, we're fighting Dr. Doom. Oh, we can't fight him. We need to go get this other guy that's being held captive somewhere else. Right. We go get Sentry out and go fight him, and he still kills Sentry. And it's Dr. Doom killing Sentry.
Well, and it's probably something underhanded too that the Avengers can't really get involved in. Like I know in the comics
there are no Avengers, unless Brave New World tells us something different.
That's true.
That would be that's another thing. Brave New World has to be the movie that and this is where maybe it leads down to the whole, if we're going down the road where it's eventually going to be the Young Avengers, where it's like if Sam Wilson is not putting together the Avengers at the end of Brave New World, then there are no Avengers. So this Avengers movie that's going to come up next year or in 26, the year after, is going to hold no weight if there's no Avengers being formed.
Right. Like at that point, you would almost have to assemble the Avengers in that Avengers movie, which
it's going to be pretty tough.
That would pan out as well as building up to it.
I'm with you because I think you need to have that team at least somewhat solidified with at least 5 members for that movie to really be called Avengers. Otherwise, just call it Dr.
least
Doom.
Like have like a solid like 2 or 3 that like already have prospects like that show they're recruiting, because then you can rope those guys into it.
And the
whatever.
only person that we've seen recruiting is Kamala. So, which I'm fine with that. If we get like, hey, she's forming a young Avengers. Right. Yes, please give me that. Sure. And then maybe something bad happens to them that they need to get the old Avengers to be on their team, or something bad happens to them and the Avengers are like, oh, what the heck did we let happen? Where these young people got killed. True. And that leads to
that would be sad, because there's like a lot of those young Avengers would be newish characters that we have not seen a lot of. So seeing them killed off would be
good thing. We've been told about different timelines and time travel where the events of that could be reversed if need be.
I was having a conversation with somebody on social media the other day. Do you think the multiverse has like cheapened the MCU, like because they can just go and grab somebody that died from another timeline at any point? They can kind of just like tell whatever story they want. Well, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing for the MCU?
It hasn't happened to the main timeline yet. So as of now, I will say no. Is that a possibility that happens? Yes. But you know what? It also happens in the comic books. Mm-hmm. We also are I wouldn't be surprised if we end up going to a Marvel's Ultimate Universe where all the universes combine into one. True. Because then what are people going to say when that happens?
I think that's definitely going to happen, because like it's pretty much confirmed at this point that we're getting Battle World in Avengers Secret Wars, which is like Marvel's, big ultimate event to bring all of the multiverses into one. So yeah. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen at the end of Avengers Secret Wars. But yeah, I guess we'll find out. But I think you're right. I don't think they've abused it per se, but like I feel like they potentially could if they felt like they needed to.
And that's where it'll be interesting if and when they introduce the X-Men.
Right.
Especially at this point. That would definitely feel like that.
Right.
But
yeah, and how far down the line is that Mutants movie? Like that's got to be happening. It's got
to be after the Avenger movies.
Avengers movies. Yeah, right.
So maybe the first X-Men movies, X-Men Ultimate, and that's so we get these we get this X-Men Ultimate story.
Now that I'm thinking about it, so when Infinity War came out, did we get any movie? Did we get Ant-Man and the Wasp like right before Endgame? We got Captain Marvel, right?
No, was it Captain Marvel? After Infinity War was Ant-Man and the Wasp. Before Endgame was the Captain Marvel movie.
Okay.
Because we had to introduce her to be like,
right before she came
who's going to come help us?
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to squeeze a movie in between the Avengers movie, or if they're just going to keep the slate clean and just do Avengers movie and then like a year or like slightly less than a year next Avengers movie, because I'm assuming they're filming all of that at the same time, probably.
Most likely, just like they did with Endgame and Infinity War, where
right, yeah,
they just pack everything in. I don't know, and especially with their different slate of how they said they want to do movies and how quickly they're doing stuff, maybe we won't. But because what is it right now? Phase 6. It's so after Thunderbolts, it's Fantastic Four, a year later, then a Doomsday, almost a year later. So there's only 2, 3. Oh no, Fantastic Four is also after Thunderbolts, so that is next year.
That'll be next year.
So from Fantastic Four to Avengers Doomsday, it's almost a year until a movie comes out. Then Spider-Man 4, and then the next. So there's only after Fantastic Four, only 3 movies slated. So
yeah,
and if you go to Wikipedia, the TBA movies are Blade, Armor War, Shang-Chi sequel, and untitled X-Men film.
So it's, I would say, unlikely that we get one of those undated movies in there, but
I could see if we got a Thor 5. That's about it. Thor 5 is probably the only movie I could see. And it also might depend on how these movies do that are coming up. Like if they're like, oh, that Captain, we love Sam Wilson, Captain America. Let's get another one of those. Or like, hey, Thunderbolts rocked our world. Another story of that. Because I'm sure like their version of Suicide Squad in a sense would be profitable. So
right. Yeah.
You can make it cheap and make it look gritty, and on we go.
There you go. Next up on the slate for 2025 is Ironheart, which we already kind of mentioned. That is dropping June 24th on Disney+. And yeah, we got a couple shots of Riri Williams making her new Ironheart suit. Not a whole lot else, I guess, about it. We do get a quick shot of the hood.
I was gonna say the hood's in it. So
So that'll be interesting.
Will we get Mephisto in this show? Like, is Mephisto showing up here?
Will it be? The question of the Infinity Bros is constantly, where is Mephisto?
Where is Mephisto?
I need him. But yeah, that'll be interesting because, like, I don't know a whole lot about Riri Williams. Like, I've read a few comics of her, and all I know is that she's like the smartest person on the planet, like smarter than Tony Stark. So she is effectively a better Iron Man than Tony Stark. But I don't know if the hood really has any comic connection to her, so I have no idea how this is going to turn out. And it seems like a very different realm because the hood is like magic type stuff, and obviously Riri is more tech based. So I don't know where this is going, but I'm excited we're seeing the hood though. That's cool. Right. That's it for Ironheart. Next up, we already kind of mentioned it. Fantastic Four. We didn't even get any clips of that. They're probably keeping that one pretty close to the chest.
I know in a previous podcast, Max and I talked about what could be going on there because it's, as we kind of get, or what we've gathered, it's not in the same universe as the Sacred Timeline from what we've been able to find out. So it'll be interesting. So for them, they're probably keeping that close. So then it's nothing. No big info's dropped to spoil for anybody, but Max will find out. So.
Yeah, Max will find out and let us know immediately when he does. I think that's okay. I'd rather not see as much about that movie until it comes out, just to be, shocked and hopefully blown away by it, because a lot of hype for that one. Next up is a series that we knew was coming out, but we hadn't seen anything from it yet. Eyes of Wakanda. That is dropping on August 6th on Disney+. That's like a 3D animated type animation. Another like totally different than the animated Spider-Man series. It looks pretty good. Again, I don't know much about it. They announced it like probably last year sometime, and I think it was supposed to drop this year even, and then they kept pushing it back along with other stuff. But it is a spin-off series, 4-part animated show about the Wakandan war dogs who are tasked to travel the world retrieving dangerous vibranium artifacts, according to an official release. So don't know much about that either. If we do get, mention of the adamantium celestial in, I believe that's supposed to be in Captain America coming up here. I wonder if that's going to play a part in, why they're going to get all the vibranium artifacts. I don't know, because they have like a competitive metal now, so they're trying to scrounge up as much vibranium as they can. I don't really know how that all works, but it'll be interesting to see how they incorporate the intro to adamantium in the MCU, especially with Wolverine probably coming down the line. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Eyes of Wakanda. You got any thoughts on this one, Mark? I mean, it looks all right.
Yeah, that's if it's happening in this timeline and it's gonna continue the story, I'm all for it.
Next up, Mark mentioned it already. October 25, we're getting Marvel Zombies. This is obviously a series based on the one episode of What If. There is a comic book series as well on Marvel Zombies, and I believe they even took some elements of that comic to kind of create the story in that What If episode. So it will be really cool to see this one. What are you most excited about for this series, Mark?
It'll just be interesting if they're going to go the route of the comic books, or maybe play it more straight like a normal zombie movie where it's not I guess go with the term comic booky. But but I do like now that we're in the realm of Disney can have pretty much any toy in the toy box to play with. It'll be interesting what characters they use as heroes. And then, of course, we'll probably get a bunch of like heroes and villains we haven't seen in the movies before as zombies. So,
Yeah.
Like they totally could play with using X-Men and everything else, but
absolutely.
But it'll be, but that's where it's, are we going to be a continuation of the What If story or its own thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm assuming it'll be a continuation or maybe even like a prequel, like leading up to that episode of What If, but it's going to be rated TVMA, which I'm not sure if that episode of What If was rated TVMA.
I don't think it was.
Not positive about that. So
I didn't know it was TVMA, so I'm even more pumped for that.
That's legit. Like Marvel is definitely going all out.
Give me the violence. If you can do TVMA Marvel, you can do horror. I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, this is going to be dipping into that. You got to think, right?
I guess you're right. You're right. So
I'm really excited about that too. So that'll be sweet. And I think if I remember correctly, we got a shot of zombie Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet and like a good chunk of the stones at the end of that episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if zombie Thanos is gonna be
it's the whole thing with
antagonist in this.
In the zombie books, it's like they can still free think,
right?
They just hunger for flesh. It's like in that case, Thanos could still be somewhat Thanos and have these stones. So
right, a lot of cool things to look forward to. With
going back to, I'm sorry, we didn't touch on this with Ironheart. Is Ironheart the one that's supposed to have Ultron come back, or is that the potential of the Vision Quest?
That's
series?
The Vision Quest series, which we didn't get any. I don't think we got any clips of that. That's still like.
I think it's in pre-production. I think is where that's
it's slated listed to film as 2026.
I think it's supposed to film in May 2025. I read. So
got it. So that would make sense then.
That's
but yeah, it's still. We've heard rumors that it's supposed to be called Vision Quest. I don't think that's officially the title yet, but that one is still listed for 2026. And we've heard that James Spader is reprising his role as Ultron for that. So that will be really cool.
Hey, you get James Spader back. That probably means there's more coming of him. So
yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Last thing that I wanted to mention that we got a clip of in the trailer is Wonder Man, which I'm shocked that we got as much as we did because we haven't seen anything for it up to this point. It is slated to release December 2025, so obviously it's still probably in some like post-production type stuff, but we got a good chunk of clips from this. We got Yahya Abdul-Mateen playing Wonder Man, who I believe he plays Black Manta in Aquaman.
Yeah,
if I'm remembering correctly, and I liked him in that show, honestly. So I'm all for it. He looks good. They have him in like the first clip they show of him is like a red suit and like the black long neck with the red glasses and stuff like that. Pretty sweet looking. I'm not I don't know much about Wonder Man from the comics, but I'm all for this show. And we got another clip too of Trevor Slattery, which was another guy that I didn't think would be showing up in the MCU again, but here we are. He keeps popping up. So he's coming back to make an appearance in Wonder Man for some reason.
And no idea why. This is going to be post Shang-Chi, I'm assuming, too.
Yeah, it's got to be post Shang-Chi. I have no idea why he would be showing up in this show. So we'll see. We'll see what that one's about.
It'll be interesting what story they tell here.
Yeah, Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed Shang-Chi and is directing the Spider-Man 4, developed this series and like wrote it and stuff like that. So I believe he is also directing. But yeah, so that'll be an interesting project that I don't know. That's one is probably the biggest question mark on this list for me because I just know nothing about Wonder Man. I don't know how he's going to fit in the MCU. I got nothing. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, and then because I'm trying to remember because I forget if they're mutants or like how they get their powers. So like, is this an introduction to mutants? Because like they say his brother's in the show, who's the Grim Reaper, but they're supposed to both be mutants. So,
it'll be interesting to see how they handle his origin because here in the Marvel Comics, Simon Williams is the son of a captain of industry whose business buckles under pressure from Stark Industries. So he turns to Baron Zemo, who transforms him into the superhero known as Wonder Man. So he's not a mutant in the comics, but
okay, yeah, let's dissect this for a second. So in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, was there any Easter egg that Zemo took some of the, what did they call it? The stuff that gave you the Captain America powers.
Serum?
Yeah, the secret serum. And could have that been developed into
a different like
thing
serum,
that, like where it's like you're not like maybe these people aren't mutants, but they've been mutated with a serum of some kind that has been altered. Just thinking if Zemo's involved, so or shows up.
Will be interesting to find out. But if they involve Baron Zemo in this, I'd be down with that too, because I really like the actor that plays him in the MCU. I think we're probably going to get an appearance from him in Thunderbolts as well, because I think in the comics he's on the Thunderbolts. I don't think they've announced that he's in it, but I think that might be like a surprise appearance.
Do you think Star Fox will show up? Harry Styles, Star Fox will show up as a Thunderbolt? You think we'll ever see Harry Styles as Star Fox ever again?
And Scar. We might as well throw him in there too.
We just as well.
Just get every character that they're never going to touch again and throw them all in the Thunderbolts.
Yep. Do you think Kang's going to be involved in Thunderbolts?
I hope so. That would be hilarious.
What's the guy that was a bad guy in Doctor Strange?
Mordo? Yeah, Mordo. Yeah. Throw Mordo.
Do you think Mordo comes back?
Yeah.
Who else?
Why not?
Who else do we got, Isaac, while we're on this topic, that of villains or heroes we'll never see again? That might be it.
That might be it. Of the big, like, loose ends that they have not touched since, anyways. There's probably more if you go way back in the MCU, but yeah,
Abomination.
those are the ones, like...
Do you think he'll be part of Thunderbolts?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? Yeah, throw him in on there too. Frogman?
Yep, Frogman. Oh, what was the guy in Iron Man 2 who was the weapons dealer? That guy.
Hammer!
Yeah.
Yes.
Hammer's got to come back at some point too.
Bring back Hammer. I want Hammer back so bad.
Yeah. Sam
what's
Rockwell.
His name? Sam Rockwell. Oh, he was so good. He was so good as Justin Hammer.
I feel like that's something that's got to lead. This is where it's like, this won't happen because this is too much of a complex thought and not mainstream to sell movies. Is if you're going to give us Doctor Doom, I feel like there should be a legion of bad guys where Hammer comes back, Zemo, leader, and then this other universe Doctor Doom is like playing like chess with this universe to weaken the Avengers.
Amazing.
So then he can come in and invade and
take
so people.
He's like sending all these guys at the Avengers or whoever.
Who he knows is
at the time.
Yeah,
and then he swoops in at the end to finish him off. Yeah, that would be sweet.
I mean, that would be great, but it's probably not at all.
It's not going to happen. No. Well, even like X-Men 97, when towards the end of the series, we got where they were communicating with
all the baddies talking.
All of the bad guys together. I was like, oh man, let's go. Like a whole legion of bad guys just chilling on the monitor doing a conference together, just oh my gosh.
Like we have yet to get that, and I feel like if we're getting Brave, this is where it's got to happen in Brave New World, where like we got to get a glimpse that is happening.
Right.
And like
there's
that's
something
why like
happening behind the scenes.
There's compromise happening to peace and order on the world or in the world. So
that might be happening in the Sony universe with the Sinister Six.
I could care less about the Sinister Six in the Sony universe.
Yeah,
you just as well tell me to like, hey, watch this dog throw up, and I'll be like, oh, it's the same thing as what Sony's doing. So like I could like literally you saying that just like drained the energy I had about like I literally drained you back out of the weeds after you brought that up and like had to slap you a few times because know what the Sinister Six Sony will do for you? Not show you Spider-Man. So there you go.
Exactly.
You'll get zero Spider-Man.
Sinister Six movie with no Spider-Man. And
yeah.
It's gonna be just
who freaking cares? And then they're gonna be like, what? Why aren't you making money? And I was like, I don't know why. You're only making these movies so you don't have to give up the rights back to Marvel so then they can give it to Disney. So
Venom is the only thing that's keeping them going at this point because China loves Venom and is making them a butt ton of money. But none of these movies are doing anything at the box office. They're not making them any money and they're horrible. Like that's the
like
other
they made a Madam
thing.
Web thinking like, oh, this is what people want. No, it's that's another rabbit hole we can get into. These type of movies that are being made.
We can talk about this.
Where like it's literally not making movies to appease the masses. It's making movies to like fund something, and so there could be a claim to be like, oh, these are diversity movies, and like they're not unless they have some, unless they're trying to just make back money or something, where they're like, oh, we'll make money off this no matter what. But they are not making these movies to appease the general audience.
No,
they think like, hey, we're gonna pull a Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, we'll make a movie about something, and then all of a sudden everyone will love it. It's like, no,
right.
Because you guys have a terrible track record of making crap movies.
Right. Well, I mean,
unless it's a Spider-Man movie, you're not going to make good money.
Releasing movies is to retain the rights to like what they do have.
Right.
But still, like, part of me thinks like Warner Bros. Is literally just trashing movies. So like, why isn't Sony doing that to get like their tax cut back? If that's the case, if they're just doing it to retain.
I have no idea with Sony being an international company. Like true, they are, like their headquarters out of Japan, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
That's true. That might be different.
But I have no idea how international business law works. So, versus, that's another awesome topic to talk about, where Warner Brothers decided to scrap a Looney Tunes movie, or Wile E. Coyote movie, and Batgirl to put out the Flash movie. And what was that one? And Aquaman 2. And I'm sure they're contractually obligated to put out those movies. Right. However, it's just like, you're going to take a tax write-off of $90 million, even though you put out 2 movies that cost you $300 million and you made nothing back. So,
and the Batwoman one is boggling to me, and the Looney Tunes one, because I can't imagine those had. The Batwoman one had a confirmed budget of $75 million. That's not a lot of money. It wouldn't take that much to get your money back. No. The Looney Tunes one, I can't imagine is that expensive either, because you can have
supposedly all in the courthouse, so it's like not many like location shots.
Right. Yeah. So I don't get it, man. I don't understand why that was a good business decision for them. So that was our rabbit trail from talking about the MCU and the current slate.
And now I'm mad because you brought up Sony movies.
And now I made Mark mad. So let's get back on topic, Mark, and reel it in here. We're going to be talking about Agatha All Along. First of all, we do have a special rating system here on the Infinity Bros podcast, so I'm going to play that bumper right here.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
So now that you know that, if you hear us reference a number in regards to our rating of Agatha All Along or other things, that is how we do things on the Infinity Bros podcast. All right, so we're talking about Agatha All Along. I do want to specify that we have a previous episode, 212, the Infinity Bros podcast, that we went over episodes 5 through 7 of Agatha All Along. We're going to be specifically talking about episodes 8 and 9 of Agatha All Along on this episode of the podcast. But if you want to check out our previous reviews, make sure you go check out our backlog of episodes. So, Mark, first of all, non-spoiler, what did you think of the finale? I'm going to refer to these 2 episodes as the finale because they released on the same night.
You want me to read it too?
Agatha All Along. Save the rating for later. Let's just do a quick, what were your overall thoughts of the finale?
My overall thoughts is they made this a 2-episode finale because either episode as a standalone would have been, I don't think, received well. I really felt both episodes, especially episode 8, was more of just like, hey, we gotta hurry up and get to the end, but also we're gonna have something big, and then we're gonna have your last episode kind of just be crap. That's my opinion of it. There's my short synopsis.
Okay. I think that's a very interesting thought.
Or some people might say we got WandaVision 2.0 is what we got in the last 2 episodes.
That is a direct quote from Infinity Bro Max on our Infinity Bros group chat. I didn't think of that right away. Now that you say that, it does make sense. Unfortunately, I don't think this was a home run finale. It wasn't bad, though. I think it did something different than we expected. And in that sense, it was okay because WandaVision had us built up for this big grand finale that we kind of expected to pull the rug from under us, right? Because it was all this lead up of all this mysterious stuff that we didn't know about. And then all of a sudden it was just like a normal Marvel fight for the finale of WandaVision. So I think a lot of people on our podcast for sure were disappointed with that finale because they built us up and then just kind of left us hanging. I don't think that was fully the case with this. So I guess I don't agree that it was a WandaVision 2.0, but at the same time, after having that climax episode of episode 7, which was a 6 out of 6 from both Mark and it couldn't go up from there. And it kind of, in that sense, it was kind of deflating, but I still think it was a fine finale. It did something different that wasn't just a big fight at the end. And which we did get a big fight at the end, but that wasn't like the culmination of the whole show.
We really didn't get a fight at the end.
I guess that was technically
in 8.
Right. Yeah. That was in episode 8. But I said, I'm kind of considering these the one finale. But why did they split them up if they're going to release them on the same night? Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, because I don't think either episode on its own holds up, in my opinion, where it's like you just have 8 be 8 and then 9 be 9 this week coming up.
Right.
Just...
Yeah,
because you'd be like, well, this episode should have been the finale because you had this fight between Agatha, Wiccan, and Death,
right? And
it's like, what are you going to do in episode 9? So then it's going to get all this hype of what's going to happen in episode 9, and nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, there would be a lot of people that would have been disappointed with that for sure.
And also, it being Halloween, that's probably why.
True.
They're like, hey,
Halloween was another big one. But why not just make it one big episode then? I guess I don't understand why they still split it.
Maybe for selling DVDs down the hard media. I don't know.
Okay, all right, that would be an interesting,
because they've been doing 9 for a lot of stuff. It's either 9, 6, or 5. That's the
true
the episode length that they've been doing.
I don't know, some weird choices there, but I do agree with you though. If they had split them up like in a different week, it would have been like, oh, it's done, right? Like, so do we even need to watch episode 9? Really? But obviously that gives us a lot more context to what's going on in episode 9. But a lot of interesting things happen, and we're going to talk about them right after our spoiler warning for Agatha All Along finale.
This is
Prepare yourself.
An Infinity Bros.
Prepare yourself.
Spoiler warning.
All right, Mark. So episode 8, we finally get the final test, and a lot of things happen in this final test. We get Billy going and finding a body for Tommy, which we kind of, I think, speculated last week that was probably going to happen. I think you actually said that you didn't think that Tommy was actually a person. He was just kind of like out there, kind of like floating, and that he was going to basically wish him into existence at the end of the road.
Which he did.
Exactly. And then we got, this was kind of an interesting reveal that Agatha was the one that bound Jen. So she couldn't use her magic. That was a kind of a twist that was like, oh, wow. Okay.
And like unknowingly, potentially too. Like,
yeah,
hey,
right.
It was 100 years ago. I didn't know.
Yeah. Jen basically was like, yeah, I was just like working for people, like doing jobs and stuff, and didn't even know that she cursed her. So she gets her powers back, and that was kind of interesting. She flies away. Hey, there's another person that could be on the Thunderbolts. We could put Jennifer Kale.
Jen and her pink magic.
And her pink magic, on the Thunderbolts. Another just person floating out there that we're probably never going to see again, honestly. Like, see, that's another thing. Like, I mean, I guess I get, it's nice that she got her nice ending, but like, it made it seem like she's got a future in the MCU, which she won't. She's not going to have a future. What other show would she show up in?
Secret Wars. I don't know.
She's just like there. Like, it's like the Avengers Assemble scene, and then she's just like there with all of them in their lineup, you know? Could see it. And Agatha is a ghost.
Agatha's a ghost. And I guess you can stall death too, so.
Yeah. Talk about that in a little bit here. We get this scene where I'm kind of bouncing around these 2 episodes here.
Yep.
We get the reveal that Agatha made up the road as like a fable, basically, and just uses it to lure witches into the woods so she can take their power and kill them.
Which I feel is on point for her character.
That's right.
But also felt like lazy writing.
Maybe to an extent. I think the cool part about that is that in that episode we get that reveal, and then it kind of goes back to when they're in their basement, she's about to do it to all of them, and then she looks down and the road is there,
because that's what we also find out too, is Wiccan created the Witch's Road.
Right.
But I guess that's kind of what we kind of get pointed to in the last episode. Or no.
Right.
Yeah, the end of this episode 8, because then it's in 9, and then it gets talked more about.
Yeah, but that was a pretty cool reveal, because like we've been getting hints throughout this season that Agatha has not been on the road before, and everybody, assumed that she had. And then we get this reveal that the road wasn't even real. It didn't even exist. And then Wiccan, who we find out has the same powers as his mom, these reality warping powers, literally creates the Witch's Road.
Which, I mean, I saw a chart where it shows like the witch's magic and how they tie on Infinity Stones, and him being blue was that'd be space, right? So that's why he's able.
Okay.
Yeah, where he would be able to create something like that. Where I feel like he does have to have some chaos magic to create the road, and then also basically grant wishes in a sense,
right?
Or be able to pull a consciousness into this reality.
Yeah.
From someone else's created reality.
So going back to that scene, we get Agatha kind of guiding Billy to help Tommy find a body. Intense scene where we get this picture and he's describing it of a kid who's drowning. Like there's a bunch of kids bullying this kid. He's drowning. And he's like, am I going to kill this kid so I can put my brother into his body? Basically, I was like, oh, dang, we're getting these like existential questions here really quickly. That was an interesting scene.
Yeah. And, whether you can say it's fate that did this or given Wiccan's powers, could have been him. Guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
But also seems, this is where like I come back to like, is this lazy writing? Where that happens, he disappears, and he comes back to help Agatha fight death instead of going and looking for his brother who now exists in this world.
Yeah.
Seemed a little sus to me, but whatever.
That part was, it was cool that he showed up in his like sweet outfit and stuff like that. But yeah, I totally get that. It was like, this is very convenient that he showed up right at the exact time that Agatha needed him, even though she like helped him put Tommy into his body. But other than that, she was real crappy to him the whole time. Like she was, she's a villain. She's not a nice person. So why did he come back to help her in that moment? And then she ends up dying anyway, so it's like, you probably could have just went and found Tommy.
Right.
You didn't really need to come back.
And that's also like the ending of the series is like, hey, it's Ghost Agatha and Billy teaming up. What are they going to do? It's like, well, they're probably going to go find Tommy because they didn't resolve that.
Shocker. Yeah.
And how are they going to explain that? Hey, we're going to take your son, ma'am, who drowned, who's now actually my brother and he's actually not your son because your son actually died. His soul's gone. Death is taking his soul.
Right.
But now his body's a vessel for my brother, so we got to go. Also, he has super speed. So can't forget that. He's going to have super speed.
Yeah.
And I imagine with Wiccan's powers, if they try to play it off like, oh, he's got to age and like he'll figure out who he is. No. Wiccan can basically just go up to him, touch him, and we'll give him all his memories.
Right,
so.
Give him all his memories back. Yeah, exactly.
So then this child is all... Oh, and that's the whole thing, too. The child's supposed to have, like, no parents anyway, so that's why, they've already made it easy for them to abduct this child, so they're fine.
Yeah, well, like they said, they were looking for a vessel, and that just happened to be the right one, so there you go. Very convenient. This is very convenient. But we do get to see that cool fight scene between Death and Agatha Harkness. I showed a picture in our group chat. Aubrey Plaza has this practical getup, which is the bottom half of her face that is the skull, which is kind of hinted, they show it real quick in episode 7. And then we kind of get another glimpse of it or two in this episode, but really is not a lot of time in it, which is sad because it looks really good. If you're going to say that she's Death, and really play on that. Why not just let her be in that all the time for these last 2 episodes?
Right.
Like I guess that would have been cool in my opinion.
And that's another thing I would like to know. Like, is death like per planet? There's multiple deaths, because that's how we're supposed to gather. Is like this person like brings people.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Like, if we go into like the religious or spiritual thing of what the Marvel Universe showed us, like, does death show up to Jane Foster when she dies, or is it something else because she goes to Valhalla? Or is this death just for Christians, Jews, and Muslims?
Yeah,
because they kind of all question. Like if you want to really break it down, they all kind of go to this. They would all go to the kind of the same afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't think there's a big breakdown. Some people would disagree with me on that, but I think in the simplistic form of the Marvel Universe, they would all go to the same afterlife.
Yeah, probably. So comics wise, death is a cosmic entity. So she is death for the entire universe.
So then what did she do when the snap happened? I need more backstory on death, which they didn't give us.
That's a great question. Right.
What we actually wanted, I think, as viewers is, hey, what's the backstory between Agatha and Death? It just can't be that she took her child and told her beforehand that, oh, she's got limited time. And then you give this whole weird story about like her son growing up and like trying to make them look like victims when it's like, no, Agatha was a bad person, was killing just witches, but innocent people at the end of the day. Like, that can't be their backstory. And then also we get that Agatha says, oh, I made this by scratch, where it's like, okay, so like that kind of boosts the theory that it's Mephisto's son. But then why does Agatha like need the son? Like, or not Agatha, why does Death need the son? Because does the son not belong there? But then where is this portal that she cuts open leading to? Which then leads to like, I can't remember if it's episodes 8 or 9, where she says to when Wiccan's trying to exorcise her, and again draws the pentagram, which I'm like, okay, Disney, give me horror stuff if you're going to do that. Says, hey, I don't want to go see him, and she doesn't say her son, she says him. And I told my beautiful wife Kelly when we were watching this, I don't think she was referring to her son. I think, because I'm going to hold on to this, I've told my beautiful wife Kelly this, I'm holding on to this as long as I can. She was referring to Mephisto. She doesn't want to go see Mephisto. Because that's where she would go if her ghost is banished from this realm.
Okay.
She presumably Agatha's going to hell if her ghost can't stay on Earth.
Oh, okay. So that's why she is staying as a ghost on Earth.
And honestly, I can't see in my perspective religiously that the son goes to hell unless the son's father is Mephisto, and Mephisto resides in hell, and that's why she had limited time with her son, because her dad wanted the son back. So there's my Charlie, like, here's what's going on here, because that's literally the steps. And you know what? It's probably not at all that is literally good storytelling. I feel like for me, that's what I would arch out to. Like, if I'm writing the series Lost or From or Severance, that is the kind of spider web crap that we want as viewers. And it's probably none of that. And it's probably super simple and stupid because current writers think that the audience is dumb, and we're not. So there it is.
Wow.
That's why I feel. And that's why we get some crap endings to movies and shows in the last 4 years. So
yeah, that's accurate. I didn't realize that I had to warn the Infinity Bros universe that we had to get our tinfoil hats on before you went on this rant.
I got a little spicy about like these. This is like
a little spicy.
When Max said this is WandaVision 2.0, and granted, I told him this when I watched it. I was like, oh, Max is gonna be mad about this. But the more I've now thought about it the last few days, I'm like, holy crap, they did WandaVision us twice in a row. And I'm just like, oh, like, come on. Like, how do you guys not hear feedback writing the series and just give us better hints? And like, I can't keep saying, like, does Daddy Feige have an end game for us? Is he holding this our hand and we're going to get these things that we kind of desire? Or are we just going to get subpar writing when there's great stories out there that they could just almost copy verbatim and make them way better than what they're putting out? But yeah.
Biggest question from that whole thing, I think, is why didn't we get an explanation for Death and Agatha's relationship? Because we got
a pretty big smoochie between them. So you can't tell me their relationship is just her taking her son.
And when she shows up in that episode 9, she knows her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not the beginning of their relationship.
Right.
But they don't show us any of that. They don't show us the beginning of their relationship or how they became to be together,
and that's
even
the
though
backstory
death is like an entity.
We want, not the son story.
Right. I agree.
All the covens that she kills. Like, we don't need that. Give us the death and her story. I'm sorry, Isaac. You keep going. I'm heated.
No, I think you're right, though. I think they focused on Nicholas Scratch way too long in that episode because we didn't need that. Like, you could have given us a simple, like, oh, she loved her son and then he died, because that's all it amounted to.
Well, not even just
really.
died. Death literally came and took him. He was perfectly healthy from what we understood.
Right, but there had to be a reason why Death came to get him, right?
Or to give,
and we don't know that
her
either.
A warning that, hey, I'll be back for him.
No, that actually tracks, because I feel like it makes sense that Death wouldn't do that, but to each their own on that one.
And that's where I'm holding on, that it's Mephisto. That's why I'm holding on for dear. I'm on a cliff. I can't hold myself up for long. I am not built for that. I'm too big to hold my weight up. I'm going to fall off the cliff because I know it's not going to happen. That's where I'm at.
After 2 complete series, you're still holding on to
just
the fact
the
that we're
verbiage they gave us, how they wrote it,
where
it's just like, why would you say I can't go see? I can't go see my son or like even say his name. I can't go see him, and just leave it so blanket. Unless they're just so spot on, it's like, hey, we do it like this, is we're gonna get all the people talking about it, whether it's good or bad. So,
and the other thing is, are we ever coming back to this? Are we gonna get a season 2?
I want a season 2.
Probably not.
I at the end of the day, though, Wiccan was a great, like, his character is great. I want more of that.
Yes, and Joe Locke, I think, is the actor's name. Great. Like, honestly, the whole.
And if they're doing a Young Avengers storyline, he needs to come back.
Yeah.
Whether the season 2 is like Wiccan is the season, I'm okay with that. So
okay, that would be interesting. And because Agatha is still with him, guiding him, or whatever she's doing,
I imagine if they bring it back,
potentially still explore that Death backstory. But
I do believe if they keep following the story, she gets a body back, her body back.
So that's another thing. I'm not super familiar with Agatha Harkness. I know she's a ghost in the comics for a good chunk of it. In Midnight Suns, the video game, she's also a ghost. So I know that a big part of her character is being a ghost. But what makes you think she's coming back in, like, gets a body back?
Well, if she stays around long enough, I can't imagine Marvel, Disney pays for that CGI for every scene she's in. That's why I say she's going to get a body, because of the money.
And you don't, like, keep Catherine Hahn around to just be a ghost either.
I mean,
so.
they have Tony or Robert Downey Jr. be a character that's behind a mask the whole time, so you don't have to pay him to do body work. He's basically just a voice actor.
But she actually played the ghost, though. Like, not like she.
But at this point, for how good CGI and AI technology is, she wouldn't need to physically be there if it's going to be a ghost like that. So.
I mean, I guess we are at that point in technology, but just thinking about that seems wild. That she could just be like, yeah, okay, well, you got my appearance now, and then just go ahead and, AI me into all of your shows from here on out. But yeah, a lot of questions did not get answered with that final episode, which is the disappointing part. I still do think it was a good enough explanation for the show itself as to, like, the road and all of the things that, occurred on the road, blah, 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 all that stuff. Still think it was good. But yeah, a lot of questions just that unfortunately were not satisfactorily gone over by the end of it. So a little bit of a bummer of an ending, especially after some great episodes, 6 and 7 specifically. I think were really good. But it's still pretty highly rated on IMDb. The episode 8 is an 8.6 and episode 9 is an 8.2. Those are both with like 6,000 reviews on IMDb right now. So people liked it.
So I would probably give episode 8, if we're going to go, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 6. I would give the last episode a 4 out of 6. So
okay. I think I would give them both 5 out of 6s. You know what? No, I think I am going to give the last one a 4.5, just because of all those questions that were left unanswered. That was the big thing, was like the relationship between Death and Agatha. Man, that's a bummer that we didn't get the resolution to that, because They built it up so much. Like that's where I get where you guys are talking about with WandaVision 2.0, I should say, because WandaVision, they like led us up to what we were concluding in our mind, excuse me. And then they just were like flat out like, oh, no, it's just Agatha. That's it.
Another quote from Max was, death is what Agatha was to WandaVision. Just kind of like a moot point at the end of the day, where like it didn't matter that they were the bad person.
You're not wrong.
Because that's another thing where it's like the last 2 episodes really try to push hard that, oh, Agatha's the victim. We should feel bad for her. We should feel bad for her son. It's like, no, she's a bad person. She never had any redeeming qualities as a person.
Well, and that's what they're trying to do these days with all these villain shows, is like you try to make them sympathetic.
Oh, gosh, I don't know if we talked about this in the last podcast, but I definitely talked about this with my beautiful wife Kelly. Is we are literally in a culture and storytelling world in the last like 5 to 10 years where heroes aren't told, the redeeming quality of a hero is they're willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good of a cause, or like kind of what Tony Stark did in a sense. So Tony Stark's our outlier in this case, but a lot of the stories that we're getting in the Marvel universe are not so good people trying to be portrayed as heroes. And like Agatha's one, WandaVision's another, but none of them really have great redeeming qualities. And they do a lot of things that are more selfish acts that we're supposed to look as good, like, oh, they're bettering themselves, so they're a hero. It's like, no, they're not really a hero. They're still a bad person. Right. And given adversity, they had to try to be good.
Potentially hundreds of people that she's murdered over the years.
Where at the end of the day, like Tony Stark was inherently not a good person, overcame that because of selfish reasons. And yes, his story arc does end because he has to make an ultimate sacrifice to better the good. Unless they show us that he's actually not dead later on, which, hearsay, where Captain America kind of is that, but then they kind of turned him into like, oh, no, what? I'm done fighting. I'm going to go back in time, screw up the timeline, and go bang Peggy Carter because I'm Captain America. So, like, literally, we can't tell good hero stories because we don't have traditional hero backgrounds for these stories. So that's why I think there's a lot missing in a lot of shows that we've had at the end of the day, where it's like these heroes really aren't true heroes, and it's kind of hard to hit the landing of TV shows.
And then you've got Sony over here making Morbius and Kraven into anti-heroes.
Yeah, and no one wants that. They tried. Exactly. They weren't even successful with Venom. So like, what makes me believe that you're going to be successful with Morbius, Sinister Six, and Kraven? Don't matter who you have playing in that. Question. I have no faith in what Sony's doing whatsoever. Unless Sony's going to be like, hey, you know what? We're going to do a Amazing Spider-Man 3 movie with Andrew Garfield, and I'm like, hey, yeah, okay, I'm all in. It could still be bad, but we're all going to see that movie.
Yeah, I'm for sure going to see that one. That would be amazing. I love this new passion you have to hate Sony's universe. I'm gonna bring this up more often.
The hate is gonna grow higher once I finally watch Madam Web. Just
yes, it will. Yes, it will. Because I think I've told you on our podcast that it's possibly the worst superhero movie ever made, and I'm not exaggerating. Hold you to that if it's not
very
bad.
The thing,
it is bottom 5.
I believe you. I believe you
for sure. Yeah,
but like there is a perfect example of like marketing and toys where it's like I haven't seen it, but all the toys that were out, I would definitely be like, oh, they're in their suits the whole time. It's just Spider Women just webbing each other and just going across and webbing across town, and you're like, it's like 8 seconds of the movie.
That would have been a better movie than what they put out if they literally were just like being Spider Women and like fighting the whole time.
And like that makes me angry to then watch the movie versus like, Thor Love and Thunder made it seem like the Guardians were in the movie because of all the toys they put out and the McDonald's toys that they had. So like they really pushed throughout all different aspects that the Guardians are in this movie. I'm okay with that because they were in it for a bit and then like they did their own movies. So, like I get that. Like that toy wise,
right.
They actually did show up. They actually were their characters versus like in Madam Web. None of them were really the characters they portrayed in toys and merchandise. So
here's what I'll say too. Like if you disassociate yourself from all superhero everything, like culture, all that stuff, you just watch Madam Web for the movie that it is, it's bad, but it's not the worst movie ever. Like, it's still decent production quality, mostly okay acting, but like including all the context of everything that we know, it is a massive failure on Sony's part. It's horrible. Enjoy that one. I think you're gonna have a good time watching that one. Because I rewatched it with some buddies afterwards, and watching it a second time and realizing how bad it was, I was like, I don't think I came to the conclusion that it was bottom 5 worst superhero movie until I watched it a second time, and then I was like, I can't believe this movie's so bad. Like, I just I can't believe it.
And when you say superhero movie, you're going on just DC and Marvel superhero movies, or superhero movies you've seen? Because I guarantee there's movies that include superheroes that I've seen,
yeah,
that you've not seen. So that's where it's like, I'm really interested to see how bad it is.
That's probably true. Like,
because Matt and Trey Parker
I would include the superhero movies that are non-DC Marvel that I've seen in there, but there's definitely probably some that you've seen that I have not. So you've probably seen definitely a few that are as bad or worse.
I think what you have talked to me about this, I don't know if we've talked about this on podcasts, where it's like the production value and the money put into this movie is what kind of makes it worse, because like clearly there's money in the cinematography in this, but it's still bad. So like someone had to approve it, because what was it? Was it $100 million movie, or was it?
Yeah, it was like 180, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Like, it's a decent level budget for Madam Web.
Okay, I totally got us off track from Agatha All Along finale.
That's fine. We were pretty much done talking about Agatha All Along. We already rated it and everything, so that's
we already got it done. We're good.
We're good. We could just go on as many rabbit holes as we want now. So, did you find the number?
Yeah, $100 million. It
was 100,
and it made 100.5 million at the box office.
Ooh.
Oh,
I mean, it wasn't as big of a flop as Borderlands, I suppose.
So I'll have one final say on Agatha All Along. Overall, I really did think the show was good. For WandaVision, I didn't feel as heated for the ending like I do for Agatha. And I feel at the end of the day, if this is if we get no more story from any of these characters, I think that will make the ending way worse. But if we don't get Death, Agatha, and Wiccan back, then yeah, I think then there's some more disdain for the show. If we don't get Jen back, whatever. If she's not part of Thunderbolts, then it's all right. But
yeah. So what would you rate the season overall?
The season overall, especially with the last 2 episodes, I'd probably give it a 5.3 out of 6.
Wow. Okay.
So still high.
That's higher than I thought you were going to rate it.
Well, only one episode got under a 5, and that was the last one. So, and episode 8's the only one I gave it a 5. Everything else has been 6 out of 6s for me. So I think 5.3 is fair.
I agree with you. I think it was a solid season overall. It definitely exceeded my expectations. So I think, overall, pretty happy with it. Definitely think that, like you said, if they don't make a season 2, there's too many questions that are unanswered at the end of this season. So that would be a big bummer. Am I clamoring for a season 2? Not necessarily. Like, I liked it for what it was. I don't know if I can say that it's going to be a top show on my 2024 list or anything like that, but it was good. It was good for what it was. And there are select few episodes in the show that I would give 6 out of 6s for sure. So overall, I'd give it a 5 out of 6. It was definitely decent enough to still be a solid watch, and like, this is a fun one that I would rewatch like for Halloween season. Great Halloween season show. There it is. That's our thoughts on Agatha All Along. Make sure you go back and listen to episodes, I believe 212 and 210 for our thoughts on the rest of the episodes of the season. All right, Mark. Last thing we have on the docket for today is our top 6 Disney Plus Marvel shows.
We're going in 3, 2. You're entering the top 5 on the Infinity Bros podcast. Starting now.
Let's just go ahead and go through our whole list, and then we can talk about them afterwards. All right. So why don't you go ahead and give me yours if you got it ready?
So right now I'd probably say Agatha All Along is 6. I'll give Moon Knight 5. No, I'll take that back. She-Hulk 5. What If 4. Falcon Winter Soldier 3. WandaVision 2. And Loki 1.
Wow. Interesting. I thought for sure Secret Invasion was going to be number 1 on your list.
That's another show that just like dropped the ball on what that story was all about.
Oh gosh, that was I think that's the worst show so far of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I would say Echo is.
Echo, for real? I didn't think Echo was that bad. I liked it.
The grand story, like at least Secret Invasion pushed the storyline. Echo kind of is its own thing, kind of like what Moon Knight is. So that's my order, and those are my thoughts.
All right, there you go. Okay, so my number 6. I think you're right on that one. I think Agatha All Along is down there at 6. Still solid, still pretty dang good. I think my number 5 is probably WandaVision. Still good. I didn't hate it as much as Max did. Number 4, I think, is Hawkeye for me. I really, really liked Hawkeye. Number 3 is probably What If. I think What If was great. You know what? I'm flip-flopping those. What If is going to be 4. Hawkeye is going to be 3. I love the Christmas vibe of Hawkeye. So that's one that really, I think, is going to be nostalgic for me later. Number 2 for me is Moon Knight. I really like that show. I really like Oscar Isaac as all of those characters that he plays. I think that was fantastic. And number 1 is Loki. Loki's just, I think Loki with season 2 for sure is ahead and shoulders above.
Yes, I would agree with you on that, because in the past, if people who have remember my list of when we've done this before, is WandaVision's always been number 1. But since season 2 and how that ends, it's going to be pretty hard to beat, Loki as a series as a whole. So
yeah, so I think what Agatha All Along bumped off my list was probably She-Hulk. She-Hulk was probably at the bottom of my list before Agatha All Along, but yeah, it was solid.
That's another thing. Like She-Hulk is like one where like people of our demographics like hated, but this group as a whole is pretty much like, yeah, She-Hulk was actually pretty good. So like I would totally enjoy a second season of She-Hulk. So
yeah, I would love it. Bring it on.
And I hope She-Hulk shows up in Daredevil Born Again. That's where you think that she would, if they have some sort of relationship.
After the events of She-Hulk, you would think so.
And Scar. Family at this point.
If he's not too busy doing stuff for the Thunderbolts.
Or on Planet Hulk fighting.
Yeah, maybe. So, okay, what would you consider the worst Disney Plus show then? You said Echo earlier. Is that what you hold to? I don't know, man.
I just can't think of...
I think I put Ms. Marvel down there at the bottom. Or no. Okay, we already mentioned Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion is bad.
Ms. Marvel's another one where like the first 2 or 3 episodes are great, and then they kind of just like deviate from what they were giving us.
Right. The first 2 episodes are great direction, and then they just like completely pivot to the whole like family aspect, and it just like I just did not. It messed up
for me. And this is the thing. I'm not saying Echo's bad. You're just telling me which one is the, like, for me in my mind, which one's the bottom of the list for me for this. Yeah. And that's where I say Echo. Secret Invasion would be above it.
Really? Secret Invasion would be above Echo for you?
And then
really,
it would be Ms. Marvel.
What did you like about Secret Invasion that makes it better than Echo?
I just love the thing. It's the Secret Invasion aspect of it, where like all Skrulls have been, and this is another thing where it's like this happening, especially if Captain America: Brave New World is happening after the events of Secret Invasion, is like a chain link of events that now need to be discussed, because Rhodey has apparently been being portrayed by a Skrull for the last, in their timeline, 7 years. So like you gotta catch him up to date. So like I think there's a lot playing to it. So that's why I think implication wise, Secret Invasion's story is what makes it better than Echo in my mind.
I think Secret Invasion is another show that if you like disassociate it from the MCU, from culture, from like everything. The show itself is not that bad. Like it's all right. It's pretty good. But the fact that they could have had a whole phase of Skrulls and then Secret Invasion been like the big Avengers movies at the end of the phase, I think they fumbled this whole IP real hard. Like it could have been way bigger than it was, and then they just kind of were like, we still do have some Skrulls. Let's maybe throw them in the show and call it a day.
They wanted to get rid of it because they knew, if we make a multiple movies with Skrulls in it, that's gonna be a lot of money in CGI that we're gonna have to dish out.
Maybe. Well, isn't Mendelsohn, like, he's practical in Captain Marvel?
Yeah, when he's not yeah, but even the makeup's gonna cost money too, and prosthetics.
I don't know. I just they fumbled that series really
they did.
hard.
I agree with you,
in my opinion.
I don't look at it just like overall, because it still tells the story of the overall what's happening in the Marvel universe. So where Echo is so isolated with her story. So
to be fair, Echo technically is the first like spotlight series where it's her own thing and technically not a part of the grander Marvel cinematic universe.
Kingpin is involved. Kingpin's going to be in Daredevil, and I just imagine Spider-Man 4 is going to also have Kingpin. So I don't know how much truth is to that. So if Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin isn't in Spider-Man 4, then I think we might be witnessing the downfall.
You should have just thrown Echo in the Thunderbolts too, because she's another character that's probably never coming back.
Right? Does she even actually have like superpowers?
No.
Yeah.
Well, in the comics, she does.
But like what we currently have
in the Marvel Cinematic.
So unless Buck, we're at the end of the podcast. I'm bringing you back into the weeds. Unless Brave New World, and there's some weird serum that Baron Zemo has, and the leader's perfecting to mutate people. That's how other people will get their powers. Or unless we bring back Inhumans and whatever they call the Terrigenesis or whatever it's called spreads, and everyone gets their powers. Or we have like a House and M thing, like they tell us that like when Wanda died, it like brought upon the mutants again. I don't know, whatever.
That's a whole nother aspect that like the MCU has just ignored, except for that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. Like that show is basically all about Inhumans. And then like they kind of for the first couple seasons followed along with the events of the MCU, and then they just kind of went and did their own thing after that.
And technically it's like that's like in that gray area, like is it canon, is it not canon? Initially
they were saying that it was canon, but now they kind of just don't talk about it anymore. So
will Agent Coulson ever come back? Because in the movies he dies, but in the show he's alive.
He could be in the Thunderbolts too.
He could be the one leading the Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts is going to be like 300 people.
There's Ghost Riders in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, that's right. He's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too. Put Ghost Rider in the Thunderbolts.
What other hero was in? I thought was wild. It's like, how you're going to have them in a TV show that no one cares about? But remember they made Thunderbolts. Like they put the 2 first episodes in the movie theaters, thinking that this was going to launch the Thunderbolts for a TV show. And then that just...
You're talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Remember, there's a Thunderbolts TV show that's technically in the Marvel Universe.
What?
Yeah. Remember in Doctor Strange, the guy who plays Black Bolt? You don't know that there's a... not Thunderbolts, I'm sorry. Inhumans.
That's what Inhumans? Oh, Inhumans. Okay.
Sorry, I misspoke.
Okay. I was very confused there for a couple of seconds.
My bad.
I was there's a Thunderbolts show out there? What? How did I miss this?
The Inhuman show. I'm sorry. That's on me.
Yes, the Inhuman show. Yes. I watched about 30 minutes of that first episode, and it is complete garbage. So I stopped. Didn't watch it.
I'm just saying, like, if it wasn't garbage, who knows where we'd be in the...
That's true. Yeah. It might be totally... And Inhumans... Did that correlate with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at all or not? It did?
Yep.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
I believe so. Like, that was because there's... who's in it? Isn't there, like, a character... Also, I think one of the actors in Humans plays a different
Anton
character.
Mount came back for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, too. Wild stuff. Well, we have probably talked for over an hour and a half on this episode, so we probably should wrap it up. Thanks for sticking with us this long. If you have any thoughts about Agatha All Along and where it fits on your ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe Disney Plus shows, let us know on social media. You can check us out at theinfinitybros.com. And you can order some sweet merch at the store at infinityBros.com as well. And if you want some free merch, come to Twin Cities Con this weekend with Mark and I. And what was it again? Where's my carrot?
I would like a carrot.
I would like a carrot.
Something just basically just say something with a carrot and
ask us for a carrot, and you will get some free merch at Twin Cities Con on Saturday specifically. Mark and I are going to be there Saturday, so try to track us down and get some free Infinity Bros merch.
No, if you're there Friday or Sunday, just start asking random people for a carrot. Maybe you'll get some free merch there too.
You never know. I mean, anything can happen. It might not be Infinity Bros merch, but you might get some other.
But it's merch, free merch.
Yeah, there you go. Anyways, thanks, Mark, for joining me. It has been a blast to have you on.
Glad to be back, or with you. Back.
And thank you, Infinity Bros Universe, wherever you're listening, however you're listening. Thank you so much for making us a part of your podcast experience. We love you 3000. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube at the Infinity Bros. You can also check out our website at theinfinitybros.com for links, reviews, and sweet merch. Feel free to send listener feedback via social media or email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.